So just another quick torque value update. The CV axles are done. They were 30 foot-pounds each. The flange on the passenger side I had to put back into the transmission, as was shown in the video earlier for changing the seal. The center bolt for those are 18 foot-pounds. The white plastic CV boot shield on the passenger side, those bolts into the block are 26 foot-pounds. And then I'm ready to do now the pendulum mount. And so for the pendulum mount, underneath we've got A and B values. The A bolts go into the subframe and the B bolts go into the transmission, obviously. And they're saying again, it's supposed to be always replace, because they're stretch bolts. 15 foot-pounds for the subframe bolts, plus a quarter turn, which I'm not going to do because they're used already, and 30 foot-pounds for the transmission ones, plus a quarter turn again. But I'm not going to do those additional quarter turn values because the bolts are already stretched. If you're putting new bolts in, follow the proper torquing specifications. All right, so the bottom's all wrapped up. CV axles are done. The CV shield on the passenger side is done and torqued. The pendulum engine mount is back on and torqued. The only thing left to do underneath to finalize is to put the brackets for the power steering line back on, and then put the left side skirt and the belly pan on once we've run it to make sure there's no leaks. So back on the top side now here, we're gonna get the clutch slave cylinder put back in, and then the shifter cable bracket and the cables back on, and then we'll get the starter in as well. So clutch slave here first. Try and get it out of here without putting any more tension or stress on the rubber line than we have to. That kind of go sideways. Get in here. And try and make sure that the actual end of the clutch slave cylinder rod actually goes into the divot on the clutch fork, otherwise it could potentially go sideways. And it's very hard to tell if you've achieved that or not, but based on the position, looking at where the boot is sitting, it looks like it's in the right place. So our clutch, our clutch mounting bolts here have the 13mm hex, and they also have an internal Torx. So just give them a little wipe. They've got a bit of oil on the inside from the rear main seal splashing it everywhere. I'm going to put anti-seize on them, so it's not a big deal. Just start with something clean. And these bolts look like new as well, so I'm just going to put anti-seize on them to help protect them, and again make it super easy to get them out next time. And the clutch sleeve cylinder bolt torque is 18 foot-pounds. Just double check to be sure. So the challenge here now is to try and get the right combination of extensions and stuff so that I can actually use a torque wrench on it. The one side's no problem, it's the the other side here that I don't think we're going to be able to get. Yeah, the extension will fit in there, but you can't get the torque wrench on it, so I have to use a universal for that too, I guess. Which I hate doing because it distorts the torque value, but not a whole lot you can do in this case. So 18 times 12 is going to be 180 and another 36. So 216. 18 times 10 is 180 plus 36 is 216. So I can actually do that on this little torque wrench. So there's 205. 210, 215, 216. And that's all there is to it. Just for those that are wondering, that torque wrench that I don't like is a Power Fist brand from Princess Auto. And my other two torque wrenches are proper Mastercraft. Decent quality, and it's still not Snap-on or Matco or anything, but at least they click when they're supposed to. So I'm gonna probably throw away that. See, that one's already, that back bolt that I tried to do at 15 with the Power Fist torque wrench is already way above 18 foot-pounds. So I don't like to use it. It doesn't click soon enough. Yeah, the Mastercraft ones at least, they're decent. They're no Snap-on, but they work a lot better. Okay, so clutch, slave cylinder, good to go. And actually, I'm gonna go just push the clutch with my foot or with my hand and make sure that everything feels okay before we go any further. Not that I'm going to pull it all apart if it doesn't feel right. But so that feels normal, I guess. Once we get the shifter cables hooked up, I will do that again and run it through the gears and make sure that it's actually disengaging fully and all that jazz. So I guess let's get the block ground back on before it's blocked in by the shifter cables and all that. I don't have any sandpaper over here, unfortunately. Or I would try and sand this cable a bit, because if you don't have a good, everyone thinks you just need positive. If you don't have good ground, that can be where most of your problems are. Not on the positive side, but on the negative side. They definitely used a lot better materials building the Mark IVs than building the Mark IIs. Just makes sense with the change in times, the change in materials available, but there's definitely a lot less rot and corrosion I find on the Mark IVs and the Mark IIs. There is also a 20-year age difference, I guess, but now that's 13 millimeters low. Don't know what the torque value is, or if there is one. Take a quick peek and see if I can find it. I couldn't see the torque value for the ground cable not there in the book with a quick look, but I'm just going to put like maybe 10 foot-pounds on it. I guess let's do the shifter cables because they're not going to affect the starter motor really. So gently untuck the cables out of here again. These bolts, as I mentioned before, for the shifter cable mounting bracket, they're 18 foot-pounds as well. Now, whether I can get a torque wrench on it to do it properly or not is a different story. We'll see here in a minute, but I will try my best. Can't seem to find the hole right now. There's one end started. Anti-seizing again, even though these threads look like new, but that's so that they're like new 10 years from now, which, yes, I do plan on keeping an 18-year-old car for at least another 10 years. My Mark II Jetta is 31 years old this year. I finally stopped driving it in the winter so that it will last longer. But Volkswagens are built well as long as you maintain them. The biggest thing is going to be the body falling off it, so undercoating is a good idea. Yes, it voids the warranty if you're still in the 12-year perforation warranty, but I don't own anything that new, so the undercoating makes a huge difference with how long before you see rust. So, just looking at this now, actually, it might be time for me to get my huge extension out here. I don't know if this is 18 inches or if it's maybe 20. I didn't measure it, but this will allow me to, I think, torque pretty much all of them without having to use a universal. I can do that one. Do this one. Coolant hose in the way a little bit, but nothing serious. And do that one too. Awesome. If you can avoid using a universal for torquing, do it, because you're losing torque through the mechanism. So if you can use a straight shot, that would be better. So 18, so that's our 216 again, but I'm going to go halfway first, do 100 first, which is 10 foot-pounds, and then we'll go up to the 18. Wind my torque wrench back down again, because the only thing we have left to torque is the starter motor, which you'll have to use the big torque wrench for anyways. The clamps for the power steering line, that one on the back of the transmission I had to take off, and there's one that goes on the starter bolt stud. That's why there's extra stud sticking out. There's probably torques for those as well. Without digging through the book, I'll probably just pick something small again, like 10 foot-pounds, just something to hold them. They're not going to go very far. Okay, so the fancy little E-clips here for the cables again. shouldn't be able to mix up which cable goes where because they are on a different angle coming off of the bracket. So if you're fighting it and it doesn't want to go, chances are it's the wrong cable for the one you're trying to put it on. But nice and quick and easy. Our shifter linkage is hooked back up. So I'm just going to run it through the gears quickly now with the clutch and make sure that everything feels normal. Feels pretty good to me, so I'm going to be happy with that for now. So let's get the starter motor in next, I guess. We also have this little bracket to do once we're finished in this area. So let's try and wrestle this starter motor back down in there without shorting anything. Yes, 18mm for the starter bolts. So, see if we can use some speed here again. O2J number 2 for starter are also 59 foot-pounds. So try and do it with the big hook wrench here. We'll do 35 first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there is supposed to be, the reason there's a stud on this upper starter bolt is there's supposed to be a plastic kind of conduit holder for all this wiring that goes onto there, and there's supposed to be a little nut for that. I'm not too worried about that one right now because this wiring is kind of a mess anyways. I've got other electrical to do. I got to do the grounds under the battery before we can put the battery box back in. So I'm not going to worry about that one, but once we've run it, I will put the bracket for the power steering hose onto the stud that's on the lower starter bolt, and I believe that's what this nut is here for. I've kept it in the negative corner of the battery there for over a year now, but let's do this. Let's fight with this transmission stabilizer bar here. The upper end is going to be no problem. It's going to be getting the nut started on the lower end and also then holding it with a wrench. So let's see if we can get completely gooped up here. Bottom end is installed at least. Top end here, where did I put the bolt now? Up here. Goop it as well. Alrighty, I believe those two bolts, both the stud and the nut, are 18 foot-pounds as well, same as the rest of the stuff in that area. Yeah, so both of those that I just assembled are also 18 foot-pounds. I don't think I'm going to be able to torque the bottom one. Without hurting, I don't want to hurt the metal. the metal clutch line there. So let's just try. I've got a pretty good idea how much torque was on it already. Can't hold. Can't hold it from turning. Still has way too much slack to be able to use a ratchet. Now it's finally starting to get tight. Again, if I could see that would be nice. The top one now I can torque properly. Use this one again because I trust it more. All the way up to 216 inch-pounds again. Don't see any other parts laying around. It's usually a good indication. If you've run out of parts and fasteners, you're probably pretty close. It's a joke, but it does help you have an idea of whether you've forgotten anything. So, I think it's ready to run. Aside from it's not going to like it too much with the mass airflow sensor unplugged, so we can't run it until we get the airbox back on. Which is fine because I want to do this vacuum pump O-ring seal before we get into any of that. Which that looks like it's going to be a bunch of fun in itself. So go have lunch and come back and we'll do that vacuum O-ring and get the airbox back in, and then we can do a test run. And I'm going to check for leaks and then do up the power steering line around the bottom, put the left side splash shield back on, put the belly pan on, and roll this sucker out of here.
So yeah, that'll wrap it up here on this second part of the transmission reinstall on the Jetta. One more video left to go from this series on the rear main seal. The next one will be the replacement of the vacuum pump seal, and then we're reinstalling the airbox, and then that'll wrap it up here. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Visit gbproductions.ca for more detailed information. Follow us on Twitter at gbproductions6, and follow us on Instagram at gbproductions1. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.